The truth about Big Mike and Omeche Oko nobody talks about. There is a side of Big Mike and Omeche Oko that people rarely talk about. Most people notice the laughter first. They notice how easily Omeche smiles whenever Big Mike is around. They notice how Michael always seems to know when Omeche needs encouragement. They notice the way they naturally gravitate toward each other whenever they are in the same place. But what people don't always notice is what happens underneath all of that. The quiet understanding, the patience, the little gestures, the way they have slowly become part of each other's everyday lives. And perhaps the biggest truth is that their connection didn't begin with romance. It began with friendship. Omeche and Big Mike were best friends before either of them had to think about what their relationship could become. They were comfortable with each other. There was no pressure, no pretending, no need to impress one another. Omeche could laugh at Michael's jokes one minute and complain about him the next. Michael could tease her about the smallest things and still be the person she called whenever she needed someone to talk to. They had built something strong without even realizing it. Then something began to change. Michael started noticing things about Omeche that he had previously taken for granted. He noticed how she tried to make everyone around her comfortable. He noticed how seriously she took her work. He noticed how she could be surrounded by people and still become quiet when something was bothering her. He noticed the little things. And the more he noticed, the deeper his feelings became. At first, Michael tried to ignore it. He told himself it was just because they were close. But one evening, he finally admitted the truth to himself. He loved Omeche. Not because she was an actress. Not because people admired her. Not because of anything she could offer him. He loved her because she was Omeche. The woman who knew him beyond the public image. The woman who could tell when he was pretending to be okay. The woman who could make him laugh after a difficult day. The woman who had become one of the safest places in his life. But Michael had one problem. He was afraid. He didn't want to lose his best friend. So instead of making a dramatic confession, he decided to let his actions speak first. He became more intentional. If Omeche had a long day, he checked on her. If she had something important coming up, he encouraged her. If she was happy, he celebrated with her. If she was discouraged, he stayed. He didn't demand anything from her. He simply made sure she knew she mattered. And Omeche noticed. One afternoon, she looked at him and said, "Mike, why do you always notice when something is wrong with me?" Michael smiled. "Because I know you." She laughed. "You always say that." "Because it's true." She looked at him for a moment. Then she asked, "And who knows you?" Michael smiled. "You do." That simple answer stayed with her. Because it was true. Omeche knew Michael too. She knew when he was tired. She knew when something was bothering him. She knew when his smile wasn't genuine. And slowly, she began to understand that the bond they shared wasn't ordinary. Then one day, Michael finally decided he couldn't hide his feelings anymore. They were sitting together after a long day. Omeche was talking about something that had happened earlier when Michael suddenly interrupted her. Can I tell you something?" "Of course." He looked at her. "I don't know how you're going to take this." She smiled. "Just say it." Michael took a deep breath. "I love you." Omeche became completely silent. Michael continued. "I've tried not to feel this way. I've tried to convince myself that you're just my best friend. But every time I tried, I realized I was lying to myself." Omeche looked down. Michael didn't move closer. He simply waited. "I don't want to pressure you," he said. "I don't want you to feel like you owe me anything. I just want you to know the truth." Omeche finally looked at him. "Why didn't you tell me earlier?" Michael smiled sadly. "Because I was afraid." "Of what?" "Of losing you." Her expression softened. "You really thought I'd leave?" "I didn't know." She shook her head. "You should have trusted me." "I do." "Then trust me with the truth." Michael smiled. And from that day, their friendship became even deeper. Omeche didn't immediately give him an answer. She needed time. But instead of disappearing, Michael remained exactly where he had always been. Beside her. And that was what eventually changed everything. Because Omeche began asking herself questions. Why did she miss Michael whenever he wasn't around? Why was his opinion so important to her? Why did she feel calmer whenever he was nearby? Why was he the first person she wanted to call whenever something happened? And most importantly, why did the thought of him loving someone else make her uncomfortable? The answer slowly became clear. She loved him too. She had simply been too afraid to say it. Then came her birthday. Michael wanted to make the day different. He didn't want a huge public celebration. He wanted something personal, something that reminded Omeche of the friendship they had built. So he created a small private celebration filled with memories. Photographs of their journey were placed around the room. There were pictures of them laughing. Pictures from long days on set. Pictures from ordinary moments. Pictures that reminded Omeche of how many chapters they had already shared. When she walked inside, she became emotional. "Mike," he smiled. "Happy birthday." She looked around. "You did all this." "I did." "Why?" Michael looked at her. "Because you've made so many moments in my life beautiful." He paused. "I wanted to give some of that back to you." Omeche's eyes filled with tears. Michael handed her a small gift. She opened it. Inside was a simple bracelet. She smiled. "It's beautiful. I wanted you to have something that reminds you of this day." She looked at him. "You always know what to do." Michael laughed. "Not always." She shook her head. "You do with me." He became quiet. Then Omeche said something that surprised him. "I think I finally understand why you love me." Michael looked at her. "Why?" "Because you've been showing me." He smiled. "And?" She took a deep breath. "I think I've been showing you too." His expression changed. "What do you mean?" Omeche smiled through her tears. "I love you, Mike." For a moment, Michael couldn't speak. Then he laughed softly. "You mean it?" She nodded. "I do." He smiled. "I've waited so long to hear that." She laughed. "You didn't have to wait forever." "I would have." She looked at him. "Why?" "Because you're worth waiting for." That night became one of the most important moments in their story. Not because something dramatic happened, but because they finally said aloud what their hearts had been quietly carrying. The truth nobody talked about was that their connection had never been built on appearances. It wasn't about being seen together. It wasn't about what other people thought. It was about the quiet moments nobody saw. The phone calls, the encouragement, the laughter, the patience, the understanding, the way they could sit together without saying a word. The way Michael could tell when Omeche needed support. The way Omeche could tell when Michael needed someone. That was the real story. Their love didn't suddenly appear. It grew out of friendship. It grew out of trust. It grew out of countless moments when they chose to be there for each other. And perhaps that is why their connection felt so different. Big Mike didn't just want to be the man Omeche loved. He wanted to remain the person she could always trust. Her best friend. Her biggest supporter. Her safe place. And Omeche didn't just want Michael as someone who loved her. She wanted the same man who had been beside her before either of them understood what their friendship would become. One evening, they sat together talking about everything that had happened. Omeche smiled. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you never told me?" Michael laughed. "I probably would still be pretending." She smiled. "And I probably would still be pretending not to notice." He looked at her. "You noticed." "Of course." "Since when?" She laughed. "Long before you realized." Michael shook his head. "Then why didn't you say anything?" "Because I was scared too." He smiled. "So we were both afraid." "Yes. And all this time." "All this time." They laughed together. Then Michael became serious. "I'm glad I told you." Omeche smiled. "Me too." He looked at her. "Would you change anything?" She shook her head. "Nothing. Not even the waiting." She smiled. "Maybe not." "Why?" "Because it made us understand what we really had." Michael nodded. And that was perhaps the greatest truth of all. Sometimes love doesn't begin when two people meet. Sometimes it begins years later, after friendship has already taught them how to trust, understand, forgive, and choose each other. That was what happened with Big Mike and Omeche. They didn't lose their friendship when love entered the picture. They carried the friendship with them. And that made their love even stronger. Because underneath everything was one simple truth. Big Mike knew Omeche. Omeche knew Big Mike. And after everything they had been through, They finally realized that perhaps the person who understood your heart the best could also become the person you wanted to give it to. That was the truth about Big Mike and Omeche Oko that nobody talked about. Their story wasn't built on one grand moment. It was built on thousands of little ones. And sometimes, those are the love stories that last the longest. Thank you so much for listening to today's gist. If you enjoyed this discussion, please don't forget to like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and turn on your notification bell so you'll always be among the first to receive our latest Nollywood updates. To my returning subscribers, thank you once again for your continuous support. I appreciate every one of you. Until our next gist, keep supporting Nollywood, keep spreading positivity, and take good care of yourselves. My name is Sandy, and this is Direct Sandy TV. See you in the next one.